Okay, you should, you will have to go into the information section in Canvas, pardon me, the announcements section in Canvas, and click on the link to come in to join the Zoom meeting. And the reason is because this still is not set up to project anything except Apple, and I've got a Dell. So the way you're going to see the screen, which will end in the world, in the end it ends up better, is you log into the Zoom meeting. Okay. If you've had a class before, then you know what's going on. If you look at the announcements, you'll see that link there to the meeting. And while you're doing that, let me just go ahead, and if you missed something, as always, you know, I'll post the video, and then you can take a look. This course is 150 minutes, 6 to 9 o'clock. So since you're supposed to have a magical 150 minutes, because at 149 you learn too little, 151 you learn too much. And what I do is this. I take this session, I go from 6 to about 7:30, I record it, okay, and process it in All Business and then post it. That's the ground-based portion. Now the virtual portion is I'll do a part 2 over the weekend, okay, so I don't make you sit here for the whole full 3 hours. I couldn't stand myself for 3 hours, so I doubt you could either, okay? So, does everybody understand that? So what I'll do is your class, the ground-based part is 6 to about 7:15, 7:30, so we get in the magic 75 minutes. And then I'll post a second part sometime during the weekend, and so you can have the whole 150 minutes of instruction. All right? I see bobbleheads. Do we comprehend? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. How many of you have had this type of class? How many of you had a class with me before I've done the hybrid? Okay. Have you grown any extra limbs or anything like that? 5 fingers, 6. Do you like the format? Okay. Okay. Because I was hearing from some of my colleagues that you didn't like the format.
Well, they were low.
Oh, well, okay.
They were low.
What I've tried to do is take all the stuff people told me over the years and design the course so that it was student friendly. So if you're working your way through school, either working somewhere or as an athlete, you can still access the courses. And so let me run you through that real quickly. Wait a minute, I have a question here. Someone has a question. Yeah, let me see this. Chat. And, okay. Brooke has a question. Brooke. Are you remote, Brooke?
I was just saying I've had your classes before. Sorry.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I hope you're not sitting in some bar chunking down Jello shots. But
I'm not.
no. If you are, let us know, and we're on the way. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you're good to go.
Definitely.
All right. Okay. Now let me go ahead and do this just to make sure. Typically, let's talk about attendance, because I sent all of you today the informational email from the registrar. Did you see that? I said, okay, here's the deal. At this time of year, I'm the luckiest man in the world. Let me put everything on mute. Mute all. All right. Now, here's the deal. To attend class, you do this. You log in at this time, okay, class time, and then, or if you can't make it at this time, you log in by noon the next day. Follow me? That's how I take attendance. Participation is a Canvas tracks all of your activities, what you do, how long you've spent here, etc. So I can look at that and I can see, you know, what you did when you were here for the 3 minutes you're here, or what some of you are already at 2 or 3 hours. So I have no idea what to think what that means. You need to get a life. But you know, so I look at participation, and again, it's gonna, if I see someone that's, you know, I can see the login, so I know you've attended. then the participation is typically by time spent at the web, at Canvas, and or page views. You got it? So if I get an email from somebody who wants to know, are you actually participating? And sometimes this will happen. Somebody will be taking, I'll get an email and you're taking a course with me, and I can say, well, you were here and you logged in, and here's the stuff you were doing and the amount of time you spent. So I have that's all tracked. There's no mistaking or anything like that. So you log into Canvas, and then like tonight, after I have the YouTube video done, process, you click on it and you're good to go. So if you've had me before, you know the drill. Now, here's a second thing that can kind of throw people really through the 1123 students today, because this is their first time with me. The workshop credits. If you've had a class with me before, you know that I do workshop credits. Let me talk about that for a moment. The workshop credit is where I take a case study, something like that, and I will work and I'll walk us through how I would do it. Now in this course, we're going to have a series of cases out of the Patrick text, and this is one of the textbooks, okay, where we're going to take some code, some SQL, and build some and create some queries. We're going to learn a little bit how a database is put together, a little bit more extensively, run the queries, etc. And we'll basically do roughly a chapter a week, and I'll do some selective queries, okay? And I'll show you where to find the materials. We'll do them, and that's for the workshop credit. If you say, well, I'd like to try some of these by myself before, that's fine. Just make sure you upload them, because what I'll say is once we've done this, like lunches, it's the lunches database cases. Once those are done, I'll say, okay, I'll upload 2, and that's how you get the workshop credit. Follow me? But at the end of the course, the reason I do that is at the end of the course, I'm going to give you some assignments. They're called Check Your Understanding, and I'll give you a chance to work with some code and develop some queries all on your own. So there is a method to my madness. And I also believe there's no point in doing anything except trying to show you as much as I can on how these work. And since they're in a video, they're saved and you can go back and review them, etc. The course also has quizzes, and so that's a couple of projects. All right, make sense? Yes. You say, now what's the point of all this? Okay, well, let me talk about that for just a minute. First of all, a database is a tool that lets us collect data and turn it into information, but it lets us collect data and handle it in a way that we get a multi-dimensional look at a set of data, okay? And by being able to do that, our ability to get an insight about a transaction, a customer, our internal operations, any one of a number of things is enhanced that much more. Now, you're going into a world where you'll be working with some clients, like you'll be working with some stuff like SAS, Oracle, SAP. There's some other products out there that they attempt to marry all the best parts of a spreadsheet with all the best parts of a database. Okay? There's one out there, it's a free, it's called Tableau, SAS, Oracle, etc. All right. Now, the one thing I can tell you is I don't know how many times I have people who go out to work and they interview, and everybody with a business degree can spreadsheet, but few people understand databases. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean when you go out of here that you'll be, qualified to be a DBA, or if you can write some code, if you could do that. Be a database manager. That is the back office part where you create the website, the web pages, etc., and the online processing engine to do all that. That's not the point. What you will understand is how these things are put together, how I can use them, and that will enable you to have a more intelligent conversation with the IT people. The other thing is this: databases are really becoming more and more a way to create a business, to build a business model, and to aggregate content. Twitter, for all intents and purposes, is 2 things. It's really 3 things. One is to keep the president distracted. and all of us. Yeah, look, I'd rather have him on Twitter than dealing with the nuclear codes, wouldn't you? Give me a football. Chris Christie's getting fatter than I am. So hey, what can I say? But Twitter is a short message service, and then it is also a database. It's under there, and it will save those tweets. And then as they start to see, they being the people who do the algorithmic searches of Twitter, start to discover who you like, who you don't, who you follow, who follows you, etc. And they start to understand your network, and they do that for charitable purposes. They do it to sell you a product. Facebook is a database. Amazon is a database. Underneath it is what we call a recommendation engine. These are tools that you need to have a good understanding of, because as you go out into the world, your employer sooner or later is going to say, you really need to understand what I mean by a query and what I mean by maybe stringing some tables together, that type of thing. And so you'll leave here as a high-end user of this technology. Now, I didn't make the rules up, okay? I just live by the rules like all of you do. And I can tell you that if you are with me in the course, once you leave and you'll have used Access, you'll understand how to use any database that anybody throws your way, for the simple reason that Access is the prototype for all of them. And what we'll be able to do with Access in here is what 25 years ago was state of the art. So that's the point of this. The other is for us to get a sense of this thing out here. We talk about big data and how we handle it. All of the data that's out there, and data is just stuff. Information is actionable data. And we spend about 80% of our time cleaning up data so we can put it into tables and we can process it and handle it. So we spend only about 20% of our time analyzing it, trying to figure, what is this really telling me? That's gonna change as they keep perfecting these tools. Okay. There are so many applications of a database, I can't even begin to tell you. If you've got an infotainment center in your car, or if you use GPS, your phone is a database. Disaster relief agencies use these. They go in, they have a picture from Google Earth that shows what it was before. Then they get a Google Earth shot of what it is now, and so then where all the buildings are at. I lived through the tornado over Moore in 2013, and for block after block after block, there was nothing, no road signs, no houses, and you had no idea where you were, and you had no idea where people were in shelters, and the only way that they did know is they had GPS. Okay, and so when folks would file with the city there that they have a shelter, okay, they had to also get a GPS back to the city. So they just went out with their detector, and they'd say, okay, we've got one over here, and you'd be surprised at how many people had one of these shelters inside the garage where you go back under, and guess what? 3 cars were piled on the top, and no one would ever heard them. But they knew they were there because they had the coordinates and they found them. You look at Walmart, for example, and you see all the thousands of products they handle. That's because they're masters of handling databases. They know how to marry that to their logistics, to their inventory, etc. So you and I can go in the store and get one of 150,000 types of toothpaste that they have available. Or you can go get, or you can make sure that your Amazon package is there. You make sure that the air flights, 12,000 airplanes are above the continental United States at any given time. 12,000. We don't have too many times where they say, well, they were headed west towards Los Angeles, and the eastbound plane landed on top of them in the middle of the runway. Doesn't happen. Why not? Well, because they have tremendous technological capabilities based upon a database. If you watch the weather, when you see folks do a weather forecast, say, or they're covering a storm, like Channel 5 will cover a storm, they go, okay, the tornado is at 44th and Broadway. They're processing trillions and trillions of data within 30 minutes, not 30 minutes, like two minutes at most, and then providing you a graphic. Okay, I want to show you kind of a more a practical one of these. Open up a new tab if you would. All right, and I'm going to take you over to one of my favorite spots, and it's Esri Tapestry. Esri is a tapestry, and they have a Esri Tapestry. They have a zip code lookup. Now, the folks at Esri, and if you've had a class with me, you've heard me talk about geographic information systems, location advantage, all of the uses that we're starting to find because we have databases and we can take a map and we can layer all kinds of stuff on it to see, well, what would it look like with this and that. This one is one I can put in a zip code, okay, and then I can get some interesting information. So I'm going to start exploring, and the zip code here is 74804, right? Yes? Zip code 74804. Now, take a look for a moment at the topics. The population density, the median age, monthly credit card charges, online banking users, are they financially optimistic? What kind of degrees do they have? Do they work in manufacturing? Are they college football viewers? This is just like a baby sample of all of the data these folks collect about people who live in that zip code. Now, this is the baby version or the free online version. They have a commercial version that takes you not from the zip code, but down to the zip code, down to the city block, down to the street level. So they can tell you, it's very expensive, but they can tell you everybody on Pine Street and wherever. They have these data and much, much more. Is this important? Yeah, because think of the insights that you get about your customer. Think of the insights you can get about transactions. The reason that Esri is so good is they have developed the capability of simulating the United States Census every year. It takes the United States government 10 years to do the census. They can do a simulation of the census in a year. And they have they have a yearly challenge where they'll be given like 5 transactions. And they have 24 hours to identify the transaction and everybody and everything involved in the transaction. And they always do it because they have that capability. Your car, if you have an infotainment center, is nothing really more now than a piece of software on wheels. The infotainment systems, they're what? They're like a database. People, they send back data on if you've got Sirius, what you listen to on Sirius XM. Do you use your GPS? GPS is a database. This has been probably the most remarkable thing that's happened in business in the past 15 or 20 years. Our capability of taking data and handling them at an incredibly fast pace to the point where people like Walmart can look at any one of their stores in the United States and they get real-time data on sales. Real-time data. You may have heard this story before. Back my church was kind of the triage in the 13 tornado. And I guess the first people that showed up was the Baptist General Convention people. The next folks that showed up were some insurance company. And then we got a phone call from the people at Walmart. And they said, here's what you're going to need for the next 5 days. Because they had so many times they'd been through these types of situations. They knew that the first day people want heavy boots. They want saws, chainsaws. Why? Because they're digging people out. Then at day 3, and they need water, and they need high protein food, like high protein bars, sports, the types of bars athletes take, anything like that, dense candies, anything. So people needed a burst of water, and they needed some energy and adrenaline. They sent something like all kinds of things, because they knew people were on an emotion. They were on an emotional and a physiological high, because they were digging to try to find people. Then after about day 10, they said, you'll be getting this, because they had put all that into their database. It was immensely helpful. At the bottom of our church, what we did, our church is over at 35 and 27th and more. Yes, I do actually attend church. Oh, you don't believe that? I check in every Sunday morning with my wife and her mother, although some people claim I'm merely in the parking lot and then I'm in my jammies and I go back home. And that's not true. I do stop at Starbucks for coffee. No, I actually go to church. Do you believe that? That's sad, isn't it? They are really, to let me teach Sunday school, they must really be desperate. But that's for another day. But look here at 4804. Think of the information I can get here and the insights I can get on the people here. So I'm going to look at population density and median age. No, I'm interested in their credit cards expenditures and their median age. Now I'll click results. Now again, this is just the online baby version. And they're going to give me the median income and the median age, and they compare this county, this zip code versus all the others. Now here's another thing is if I want to, okay, I can start to put this into perspective. You say, what do you mean? Where does this city count? Sit. Where is it located? And I just keep bumping out and bumping out. Or zooming back in. So with this information, I have some really incredibly rich insights about the people in this zip code, their monthly credit card charges. How do they sit versus the state, the country? Would I want to know that type of information? Of course. The thing about this is so powerful is the commercial version takes you down to the city block level. And so if you're Home Depot and you're trying to figure out where to drop the next $50 million to open up a store, a tool like this is of tremendous value. So this is just one of the ways in which databases have really started to come to the fore in terms of their use and people understanding how powerful they are. I'm very interested in mapping. I've gone through several courses with these people and some courses with Penn State. And it's just fascinating stuff to me. I've always kind of been a geography freak, but the ability to go and you can get all kinds of information and insights about businesses. One of the things that would be interesting that you would like to know is that now the United States intelligence agencies they all have a satellite or two, maybe 3, maybe more, but many of them are renting space to our large companies so that when they go over selected parts of planet Earth, they take a few pictures just to see if the plant there has been expanded or if the parking lot's full of a bunch of cars or it's empty. So they have some insights on what's going on. Flying over the coast getting pictures of the coast of China to see what does it look like that the yards there, the shipyards are full of ships ready to head west. Does it look like it did last year, or does it look like there's less stuff there? So these are very powerful tools, and we want to get you exposed to them and become comfortable with them and get a sense of what they can do for you. Now, let me stop. Any questions? I don't know when add drop is, but they'll let you out of here. Will they give you your money back? I think that if you do add drop, there's a fee, isn't there? Isn't that ironic? You're going to drop a course, but there's a fee. There's a fee for everything. Right? Wrong? College is expensive. It's an investment. Trust me, it truly is. Now, the I have a little welcome module here, and I have the course divided by modules. So if you say, okay, how do I keep track of what's going on? Click on modules, and you'll see that I have this little welcome module, okay? And then I have week 0. This is, and then a kind of a introduction to the course. And then next week, week 1, we'll start to look at what we call the data warehouse concept. And we'll see how we can design information to our needs. We can design a data warehouse, and I'm going to show you an example of one, and that's that Northwind Traders, which Microsoft put out as kind of a baby data warehouse to let you see. This is like, and you've probably heard me say this before, this is like kind of learning how to drive a car. Once you learn how to drive a car, the concept of brakes, gears, accelerator, rear view mirror, side mirrors, how fast am I going? Those concepts become imbued in you. So once you've learned it, you got your driver's license and you've learned how to drive, it's pretty simple. You could end up driving a Ferrari. Now, if you've not been trained to handle a Ferrari, you'll wrap it around a tree. But if you've learned how to train to drive it, sky's the limit. If I had one of those, I don't know why you would even want to drive it around outside. I mean, everybody in Walmart's going to put a ding in the first chance to get her at anywhere you go. Of course, I guess if you drive a Ferrari, you probably don't shop at Walmart. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But they're awesome pieces of machinery. But again, we're going to start to say, okay, what are these things we call a database? Why do we have these particular designs? What can we do with them? And the whole idea, again, is to let us get a multidimensional view, or the fullest and the richest view of customers, competitors, transactions, environmental conditions, etc. And to try and put that data all together and see if we can get some more insights in our business. So you have these tools that are really more probably I guess more of the theoretical pieces that we take and we translate into something in terms of reality. Now, here's a nice little map I want to show you. It's an interactive map of gun violence in the United States. It's not a nice one, but it's one of these ways that folks try to push awareness. Many cities now have a thing, tell us where there's a pothole, and where something needs to be fixed, that type of thing. This is designed to put a social issue out into the forefront. Okay. Los Angeles Times, for the longest, I think they may still do it. They had a database you could go in and look at murders in the Los Angeles area. Where were they happening? I'd like to know that if I'm moving to Los Angeles. But it was also to kind of shame people and say, hey, and to give people a sense of what was happening in their community. So this is one of these where people, and we're seeing more and more where people are getting involved and we get some more civic engagement as we use these tools. Someone had a comment. Question? How many of you have ever used Yelp? Done a review? Hey, you're already part of all of this. Yelp can be, you do a search for somebody, you post something on Yelp, and folks will start to look at the locations of those and scrape them off to see who's getting dinged and who's getting praised and all of that. I think I really did not understand how powerful these tools are until I took a course with them, and it's called the Location Advantage. And our project in the course at the end was to select a retail site, and we were given a whole set of criteria. And it was for the city of Seattle. And we were told, here are the criteria, blah, blah, blah. And you have to find a site that meets all the zoning codes and access to major roads and all this stuff. So we'd been kind of building up to that, and we found our location, okay, for the outlet. It took us 45 minutes. 45 minutes. My father used to work doing in identifying locations for grocery stores long ago. And it was generally about 3 to 6 months for him to find that. Where do we locate it? I did in 45 minutes what it took him 3 months to do. So that tells you how powerful these tools are. Just unbelievable. So your familiarity with databases, your understanding of what we can do with them is going to put you way ahead of your peers. Let's talk about the course just real quickly in some other terms. The textbooks for the course. Here's the one. This is the Patrick text we'll be doing. This has the code. This is over at the store, bookstore. I don't know if you can get it on Amazon. Now, if you can get it in digital form and want to, that's up to you. I've not found that you can. Okay. What I'm finding is a lot of these publishers now, they won't give us a desktop copy anymore. So I've resorted to renting textbooks just like you did. Everybody's wants a buck. Hey, whatever. And then the other textbook is this textbook on business intelligence. What does that mean? It's a term you hear a whole lot about it. Well, this textbook's going to walk you through that concept of how to identify my key performance indicators, how to identify strategic kinds of issues in my firm operations, and what are some key strategic issues that I need to track out of the world. And that's what they mean by business intelligence. It's an excellent text. It's the gold standard. And it will also have some things that introduces you to Teradata University, which has access to all kinds of tools. By the time you leave here, you will be able to say to an employer, I've worked with, I think I have a SAS visual analytics exercise in here, or if not, I know Oracle. And so you'll be able to say to an employer, if you've taken all these courses with us, I know and kind of understand Oracle. I've worked with Microsoft Access. I've seen SAP. I've seen SAS. And your employer is going to say, okay, because those are the top of the line products. And then you would be surprised at how many times I'll have students say, I got the job because I had done a little bit of work with the database. So we've tried to add that element into the course to give you an opportunity to have a bit of a leg up when you go out there and you compete for a job. Okay, so you've got that textbook. And then the third one is this one. And this is by Potsy. This is Exploring Access 2016, and gives you a lot of information about the operation of Access, how it's put together, etc. Okay? Yes? I'm not trying to turn you into a database administrator or programmer. What I am trying to do is to turn you into a high-level end user of database technology, so that you understand what it can and cannot do for you. And you can have an intelligent conversation with the people in IT. Fair enough? That's about really all I can do. All I can tell you is that in the time, I guess when I left school, I've been shocked by how fast this technology has gone. I worked in databases as early as the 1970s, early 80s. They were very crude. It was nothing iconic, no windows, everything. Everything was code operating at what they called the disk operating system, the DOS level. You wrote code. And the uses of them people really didn't get yet. They didn't have a sense. Folks that maybe the people in the aviation industry had the best handle on what to do and how to handle these, or what to do with the tool. Now everybody is using these. If you go shop online, you're dealing with the database. Typically, if it's Amazon or something like that, it's what they call a recommendation engine. Okay? Questions?
I think you're doing great.
Well, thank you. So I'll have to, let me make a note of that, because you definitely are not getting it. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, you add a little more sincerity to it, and you'll be good at work. There you go. And to be truthful with you, if you don't make an A or B in my class, it's probably because you didn't turn a bunch of work in. Okay. The workshops we're going to go through, those are credit. You get credit for doing the workshops because I'm trying to just walk you through these and get your comfort level good. The quizzes and exams are open book, open note. Okay? Open book, open note. And then there'll be some projects that you'll have. And each week when you see the module, you'll be able to see, you'll see that. All right? So far, so good? All righty. Let's go back into Canvas, and we'll pop back over here. And let's go to the modules section. So the modules, that's where to go to look for everything. All right? Now, if you look back up and here, you're going to see some OBU resources, Snapgrade's on banner, online business resources. If I'd had an online library like all of you do, where you can go in from any time, day or night, and search the thing and pull up articles and books and stuff, I'd have thought I'd died and went to heaven. So just so that I get the kind of the retro experience, what I do is I'll go into the online business and business resources there at OBU. I'll go in, and then I also have a pair of really dirty socks, so I get that library musty kind of scent thing going on. So I can be retro. That's a stupid joke, but hey, you can go in and you can search this stuff, and you can pull it up in PDFs. It's amazing. I understand the library. I get it. Okay. Facebook, Twitter. Here's some information. Here's a link to Harvard Business School and MIT. What's going on? What do the brightest people in the world think about all this? Okay. What's on their mind? Horton, which is Horton School at Penn State. Stanford Business Insights, the Christian Business Faculty Association. Folks are trying to figure out how do we work in the marketplace and do so in a Christian and ethical way. There's also a supplemental website for this. I store a bunch of old stuff. And then you'll see the Patrick materials, and these are those. That's a set of, well, let's download it. Let's open. I'll show you what's in there. Okay. It's a zip file, as you can tell. Now, I'm going to diminish the top of my screen here. And this has two key things. You see the thing says SQL Fun? Okay. That's a database. And inside of it are several preloaded tables that essentially is like our warehouse. Now, if you see the zip file and you open it up, you're going to see access code for each of the specific chapters. And what we're going to do is we're going to have our data warehouse open. We're going to go chapter by chapter. We're going to open up and we're going to take the code and cut and paste it into Access and see what the result set looks like. Okay? Now, by the end of the course, when I give you the check your understanding exercises, you ought to be able to either utilize you write some code or use the design view on Access. And you'll figure out what I'm talking about. Let's just click on chapter 1 for a minute and take a look at it. And this is SQL or SQL, structured query language. All right. And let's look at this very first one, 1-12. Now it says select asterisk from 1_ employees, and then there is a semicolon. What do you suppose it's saying in plain English? Well, the semicolon is a wild card which says get everything from that table. And it's a select query. 95% of all queries are select queries. So it says select everything from a table named 1_ employees, and the semicolon says end of commands. SQL is what we call a specialized command language If you've had a Python course or something like that, it's not at all like that. This is just simple commands that are executable once you put them into a code area where it's processed. Okay. Pretty soon you'll be looking at some pretty complex queries and you'll be going, oh, okay, I see, I understand, I get it. We'll learn something also about the design view. Okay, so that kind of gives you a sense of those of the Patrick materials, what we've got going on there. And let's go back over here now to the modules. I'm still over here in the welcome area, and you're going to see the lunches database done. I think that's almost all of the queries. Let's download that for a minute and let's take a look at it. And it's in a zip file. And I'm going to take this. I'll open it up. And here's DB1, 2, and 3. Let's click on DB1. And it has the code for database 1. Now, when we work on an assignment in here, a workshop, what you'll need to do is take that file, whatever, we'll work with the SQL fun file, and then we'll start to paste the code and all that business. Save it to your desktop, okay? And what I do is I rename it, save it, and open it up, save it, and then you can upload it back in here. If you don't get it down to your desktop, you will have a temporary file that I won't be able to open, because the system will say it's a temporary file, it looks fishy. Do not do anything with it. So I'm going to, this is Lunches Database 1, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it down on the desktop so I can see where it's at. I'll click Save. Okay, I'll enable the content, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and close it. All right. And I'm going to go back down to I'm going to go back down to the desktop. And it should be in here. There's LD Lunches Database 1. Okay, you with me? Now I'm on my machine, so I have it's the one that the school gave me, so so Canvas will play nice with me to a certain extent. For you in here in the lab, it's going to be a little more careful. So what I would probably do is this: I'm going to go in and rename this Lunches Database. I'm going to rename it Lunches Database 1 and okay. And then I'm going to open it back up, and then upload it. Let's look at it for just a minute, okay? If you've had BISS 1123, this looks somewhat familiar. Okay? Every database has the following things. It has tables, that's where we store data. It has a query engine, that is how I pull data out of tables. It has a form, which is an easy way for me to put data into a table, okay? And then it has a report function. It also has some things called macros and some other and projects, and that gets you into Visual Basic, which we're not going to mess with here. And I'm not sure anymore for folks who are going to go out and run a company or whatever. If you're going to be a programmer, sure. Otherwise, I don't know what good it really does you to do VBA. It might. But here are the tables, okay? Now, we have all access object, and you'll see we don't have any kind of queries that we've run in here. No queries, just the tables. Okay? So let's do something for a minute. Let's click on the constants table, and let's see what that's all about. The constants. This is a table that has some fixed kinds of information that we store. That's why we call it a constants table. It could be also the same thing as it could be like prices. It could be like numbers. It could be dimensions of a product or components of a product. These are what we call slowly changing dimensions. So when you hear people use the term dimension, they're also talking about an attribute. They're also talking about a variable. Let's go down here and take a look at another one. And here's one that's going to be a little bit more robust. And this is the departments table. Okay. And I'm going to put my query there so I can drag it off a little bit. So here's the the department code and the department name. Okay. Now what I have here is there the accounting department, whoever, and the name and the department name. So if I have that code, I know what the code means. Got me? That's another dimension. A dimension is a variable, something, it's a who, what, when, or where. And then we get to what we call fact tables, and we'll see some of those. I'll talk about them in the next video. That's when I have factual data, something I can add, subtract, and multiply, or dates or things of that nature. That's where transactions typically occur. Then let's look at the employees table. Let's open it up. And these are all the employees. And we have information on the employee ID, their first name, last name, department code, etc. Now, we probably would have a form to add into these tables. You say, why don't we have queries here? Well, we can create queries to run on these tables, and we just decide what it is that we want. What do we want to get from this table? Then we've got foods. Let's look at that. Okay. Now, what we've done is we have a set of tables that are specialized. They store everything we want or need to know about food. You say, why would you do that? Why don't you just put everything into one big table? Because it's too unwieldy. Plus, when I run a query, I can link tables together. And we'll learn how we do that, how I take one table and use what we call a primary key in it and embed it in another table, and we call that a foreign key, and we link those two tables, and then we can run queries using the two tables. Okay. Now, when databases first came out, you were literally changing the physical, the stuff physically that was in a machine. You do the address, you do some machine language. Today, when you run a query, what gets saved is not data. What gets saved is just the query. But then when you execute the query, it basically gives you a picture of what you ran. That's why people like Google, you can Google something, you'll read it, and it'll go, you got 3 million of these in 15 seconds or something like that. Much more economical, much more quick, far quicker. Here's some lunch items. We'll click on that. Okay. And these are the IDs for these items. And then the item number, the supplier, the product code, and the quantity. Okay. Let's go to the very last one, last two. There's lunches, and these are events. This is a log of lunches and who was there. This is a fact table. It's events, things that happened. Then we have the suppliers, and we'll open those up. And these are all of our suppliers. Okay? Now, let's kind of explore these for just a moment. And you have one of these for chapter 2, etc. So we can run some queries on them and execute them if we care to do that. Let's go back over here. Let's look at the table right here, the supplier table. Now, on the suppliers, right click it, Okay, this is what I do. And you have the design view or the data sheet view. Let's click design view. And this will show you how the table is designed. This shows you the field name and the type of data in that field. Now, this is probably more than you'll ever need to know when you're out there, but when you're speaking and you're having a conversation with your IT people, you've got to understand that they're trying to balance off storage capacity, which does eventually cost money, versus what you want to get out of your database. You follow me? It becomes real money. When you start handling, if you've got, you could have as few as maybe under 1 million bits out there, and if you don't have them stored properly, then you either have to go in and reformat them, which takes time and energy of an employee sitting there doing it, which is money, or you have to go back and reformat things, which costs you money to do that. So when you set up a table, you want to make sure you've got the dimensions that you need and the data stored in a way that you want it stored. I mean, when you look at that, we see the supplier ID. It's in a short text. And as you move down here, and we'll talk about this when we talk about data integrity, you see these field properties down the bottom. Okay, come down and take a look, and you'll see the end. Is it indexed? Yes. Is it required? Yes. Do we allow a zero length? Yes. And it says no duplicates. And what that means is every supplier has their own unique ID. Just like we give you an ID. Like this, like you have a social security number, which is an ID. That unique identifier allows us to link, to make sure that we have control of this table and we don't have duplicates, but also to link in with others. Now, let's go back and let's click on the suppliers, okay? And let's see if we've got it down to the design view. All right, and I want to click on the design, and I want to go down to the. Let's see. Okay, we're not going to have an SQL view. Sorry about that. There's a primary key. It shows us that. Now, let's go back up to the data sheet view. Okay. Now we run queries on these basic tables. These are our dimension tables and just the basic tables, and we run queries on this stuff so we can learn some things. Now, let's just for kicks, come up to the top of the ribbon and click on Database Tools. All right, you see that? Click it. Now, if you take a look, you see the relationships, excuse me. Click on that and looky here. Data is just like money. It flows according to how our business is organized. It flows according to some pretty set rules. Information is the same way. And you can see how these tables are all interconnected. Now, let's look at this for just a second. And you're going to see, for example, let's look at suppliers and the relationship of suppliers to the foods table. If you look at the suppliers table, you're going to see it has a primary key, all right, and it's connected to the foods table. And you'll notice that on the supplier ID, which in the foods table, it's not a primary key, it's what we call a foreign key. It has an infinity. And what that's saying is I have supplier IDs, and we can have the same supplier purchase from us several times. That's what it's telling me. If I pull this all apart pretty soon, and the nice thing is I can do this here in the visual, in a graphic user interface, and start to see where everything kind of lands, what table tends to pull everything all together. but we can see their relationship. And because they're related, we can run some nice queries. And we'll see that as we go along. And I'm not going to save any of that there. So now we'll go back over here to the modules section. And I want to talk some more about the structure of the course. And you can see each week we do, like we're doing the course intro today, and we'll do this here on next week. We're going to look at these design concepts. What are we talking about? And then on the 14th, you have the POTSI exam. That's over chapter 1. That's over the access test. And then I start to try. I always like to show you some of the practical uses of this tool. Okay? Click on, this is just something interesting. Click on the bomb site, mapping the World War II bomb census. So during the Second World War, and we'll go over there, when the Germans bombed London, they dropped tens of millions of bombs. There was no smart bomber, no precision bombing. People just, the bombers came in and they had some crude instruments that could give them the wind and would give them a sight and maybe a little crosshair so they could look for a target. But the assumption was if we dump enough stuff within a square mile, something will get hit. And the bombs are constructed such that if they didn't hit a target, they had a concussive effect. And that is they blow apart if it would hit 100 feet from you, it would blow you apart anyway. And so they just came in. Look, and this is all of the unexploded ordnance in London, DC, in London. From the Germans bombing, yes. A year and a half, 500 to 600 aircraft at a time in shifts every 3 hours. And that was the Blitz. And they came in at dates, it came in at night, and they just dumped fire bombs. They dropped napalm. They just dropped giant bomb, all sizes and types of bombs, depending upon the bombers they had. Napalm is the favorite because napalm will set everything afire and it sucks the air out. So when the people were down in the tubes there in London and thought they were safe, if they didn't make sure that they had a properly manufactured door, the fire from the napalm would just suffocate everybody. When we did that in Japan, most of their structures in Tokyo and the major cities were made of wood, and those people had no chance. They just had to be out of town. That was how you survived. That many bombs. There's all of that, and every time they dig something or build something, they have to go check, and it's probably every 3 months that they'll find a 500-pound bomb that was dropped there that's still live. It just didn't go off for some reason. One of the things that I'm involved in, I'm very passionate about, is the use of mines as a military weapon, and there are millions of them around the world. In Eastern Europe, it's every week there are probably at least a dozen children who walk into, like in Bosnia or somewhere like that, and they walk into a field and they trip and they set off a mine. And those mines are designed not to kill you, but to wound you. That's like what they do in Afghanistan or in Iraq. They put a bomb there. Why kill the soldier? If the soldier's killed, okay, they got killed. But if they wound you, or if they maim you and take off a leg or an arm or 2 legs, now you have what? Someone you take care of for the rest of their life. The morale effect, the cost, that's how they extract prices out of us. So while militarily they're not superior, they can put one of these improvised bombs beside a road. They don't worry about whether they kill anybody. If they wound people severely, they're fine. And so the whole idea is to send us a message of, you keep coming over here and bothering us. You keep coming here. You stay here. We're going to maim every person we can get our hands on. We don't need to kill you. We'll just maim you. Then you can be taken care of for the rest of your life. That's pretty cruel, isn't it? In the Iraq-Iran war, this was before any of you were born, the Iraqis and the Iranians both used landmines, and between the two borders it was almost like they had a World War I kind of thing. They had trench warfare it was like World War I all again. And between the two of them, they had about we've estimated 35 to 40 million landmines that they buried. So you're not getting across that. It would be for sure. And they had a brutal war. That was World War I with World War II with 21st century weaponry. Millions and millions of people perished. So a database helps us work with this. It's pretty unbelievable, isn't it? Gives you food for thought. How lucky we were we didn't get bombed. And we were out. We didn't have to deal with that piece. So I try to give you some practical kinds of things that might be some benefit to you, or maybe some interest. Take over here, and there's the advisory group. This is the Geneva Interventional. They're a humanitarian site on dealing with mines. It's very disquieting. Other than gas or some kind of chemical weapon, a mine, it's beyond total warfare. Particularly when these armies stopped their conflict like they did in Bosnia, they didn't all say, well, let's go find the mines and dig them up. I said, no, we're not. Once they're armed, I'm out of here. And so if someone unfortunately finds them, they do. It's a very, very sad thing. Very, very sad. So wanted to alert you to some of these types of resources that we can use or that are important, and we use databases for those. Siri, Alexa, any of you that have, you talk to Siri or you have Alexa, or I think Amazon, whatever the name of that, Karina, I think, and you talk to it's a database. That's all it really is. And it just starts to mimic your language patterns and gives you feedback. These are the 6 degrees of separation. Facebook is based on that networking concept. So some interesting kinds of things, or, tap or swipe so you can order flowers, pay for stuff. Database technology enables us to do those kinds of things. So I'm going to try to give you some practical examples of what these things are and what they can do and how powerful they are. Now, next week, we'll do some work on, I probably in the second part of this, I'll probably go through the first lunches database case and work through it and kind of let you see how we do that. It's not that complicated. We grab some code and we go into the database and we slap it in and run the query and see what we get. And it lets us do a little bit of analysis of it. And talk about and then we'll also, next week we'll talk about the information design options, what that means. Then again, here we've gone through these, and here are the access workshops. The access workshops, will be when we work through the Northwind traders, okay? And I'll tell you what to upload there for the workshop credit on those, okay? Fair enough? And we'll do them and we'll look at them and we'll see how that's put together. There's some other resources here where you take a look at that use database technology. Now let's go on down through the course. I have a couple of other things. Okay, yeah, you can see here's the lunches database 1. We'll have worked on that. 2, 3, and then we'll look at this concept of the visual information seeking mantra. What's that all about? Same kind of pattern pretty much through. Okay. And some of the databases, some of you might find it interesting to maybe, if you when you get out, decide to go out to work, is, you know, the worst that can happen is, say, if you go to the VGCO or the North American Mission Board and say, I'm kind of interested, do you have any full-time positions working with you? I'm willing to learn. You might find it an interesting experience. Might find it something that you enjoy doing. There are other kinds of humanitarian types of organizations that need folks that can work with databases, that understand how they work. And so you can see we'll be going through that. We'll be working on a practical case, and then I'll show you some of these things that have that are out there going on, some uses of databases, as well as some of the theoretical underpinnings of what we're trying to do. Make sense? Thank you. You're just I can stand the silence. So if no one answers, now what I do is, though, after about 4 minutes, I go fetal. I go fetal. Yes, I do. Right in the middle. Yeah, I go fetal right here. Just I go to fetal. I go fetal. It's ugly. It's disconcerting. It's disturbing. You don't want me to go fetal, do you? Okay, I'm done. Yeah. So I put it out there, you know. All right. I want to talk about the flex time stuff. Come down to you're enjoying this more than I am. And okay, well, good for you. I know I'm happy that you do, if you do. If not, like, he's not someone I pay to come in here and say this. Well, you know, there's an interesting, let me stop and tell you a couple of interesting, one tidbit of wisdom, and the other is an interesting story. I had this class, and I walked in one evening, and a student said, I'm really bored with this. And I said, well, let me tell you some exciting places in the world. I said, McDonald's at lunch hour is very exciting. There's a lot going on. And I said, Afghanistan and Iraq are very exciting places there. There's loads of stuff going on there. Now, we are all very fortunate, and all kidding aside, to get to be here. Only a small part of the people on the 7 billion of us here on planet Earth get to study in a safe environment and study business and have things as nice. We are fortunate. We're the lottery winners of the birth sweepstakes. Otherwise, tonight, all of us, some of us might be out in West Africa trying to get away from a warlord that wants to make us his best friend. Who knows? Most of the people in the world go to bed hungry. Most of your people, your generation, your peers, all around the world will never go to college. Most of them will never even finish high school. Many of them will not even read and write. That should give you pause to think and great concern. Because when people are ignorant and people are hungry, and then they get angry. And people get angry, they do crazy things. Okay, so the flex times are built in here. So if you'll have some projects and some things as well as the final. So I give you some time here to work outside of class or during the class hours on those projects. It's just a thing to get you to be a little bit more of an independent learner. And what I do also is this, is I'm here and available to help you during the flex time, but that's your time to be a self-starter and get the work done. Okay? All right. Now, let's see. Anybody have a question? No questions? Oh. No questions whatsoever.
We did a great job.
Well, when I'm sober, I'm pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Most of us, you must be right now.
Maybe, maybe not.
I like that.
You never know.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Roll the dice.
Yeah. No, I'm a teetotaler. I've been drunk a long time. I do have Tourette's. It kicks in about 7:30. So that one will have to be on the lookout for. How many of you would like to know the definition of true love?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely need to. Anybody? Okay. Long ago, when I was but a wee lad, there's a young lady who thought she was in love with me. At that time, I believed that tobacco in your a little bit between your cheek and gum was good. And if you think so, you have. And those of you who might have explored that or have friends who have, about the Go Cup, right? And she carried my Go Cup. Now that is true love. Maybe so. Maybe so. If she'd had all of her teeth in her head, she might have been. But that's another story. Okay? But my mother, who was a person of few words, looked at me and said, "That young lady has fairly low esteem. You may want to reconsider the relationship."
Hey, you reeling the fish you catch. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I was pretty worthless at that point. Still am. But she would have been marrying up as far as I was concerned. But hey, that's the definition of true love.
Now your fish will have better bait.
Well, now, how many of you know I'm a saint? How do you know that I'm a saint? Don't you people go to chapel? You're all saints, okay. But I'm a saint. You know how I know? 3 summers ago, I took my wife to go see Dancing with the Stars live. Are there any DWTS fans in here? My wife is a freak.
Really?
So I drove up there and I watched. At the end of the show, we go home. We go back to our room, and I didn't know it, but they were staying in the same hotel. So about 11:30 at night, I'm going over to the gym, and I see about maybe half a dozen of them. Now the gentlemen who are on that show, let me tell you what, they look like they could play in the NFL. They were studs. I mean, they were ripped. And I told him, I said, "Why aren't you?" I thought, no, why would you play professional football when you can make $1 million a year dancing with beautiful women? You're not stupid. But they were very impressive in live. But I'm like that. We're friends on Twitter, a few of us. Not really. I follow him. He probably goes, "Who's that strange man?" The old guy we saw in Wichita. Is he still tweeting you? They're probably going to issue a restraining order any day. But that's another story. But I'm a saint. I took her to see them. It's impressive live. It's even more impressive live than it is on TV. It really is. So who are the fans of that show? Any in here? Ever watch it? Wow. Okay, you watch it. And then, okay, there's a new show out. Has anybody seen Dr. Pimple Popper?
Oh, no.
It's a reality show. Haven't you seen it? It's on cable. Dr. Pimple Popper. It's out there. I'm serious. It's out there.
Why would anyone watch that?
I don't know. I've watched it.
You like it?
It's interesting to see how once the doctor does their magic that people's lives change. Yeah. How much better they feel about themselves. That's an interesting thing. And I kind of like watching the operations and stuff.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
She just pops it.
Well, you need to go watch a few episodes. It's not just pimples. No. Tumors and stuff like that people have. So she's really rendering a service. It changes a lot of their lives. Oh, have I wasted enough time? What do you think? No?
Whenever you're feeling it.
My gut was go home at 6 o'clock, but
Hey,
I'm here.
hey,
But but my contract says be there. So I'm there. But you see, if I hadn't been here tonight, I would have missed getting to see all of you. And you listen, it's embarrassing. All of you coming by my office to see me, the other faculty are getting really jealous, especially Dr. Rubach. Stop it. Stop it. It's embarrassing them. All right. Well, we've come to that point where I've done what I think I can do. You've taken what you can. And there's an important question I ask you, and it's what? Are you people still in my lab? Have a good one and see you next week. All right.